we'll turn it over to Dr. Mahmood.
Switch over to my presentation. Just bear with me for a begin in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, master of the day of judgment. All praise belongs to him, and all of us have to return to him. The topic of our discussion today is the preserved tablet. I bring to you, ladies and gentlemen, greetings from India to all of you, to the whole of USA and to the world. And I am particularly grateful to the Salam Network, Professor Rifat Hassan, Mr. Danish Neyman, and all the other esteemed colleagues who are present here. Let us have a perspective in which we are going to talk today. As a foreword, let us quickly walk ourselves through man's faith trajectory so far. Adam's Travelogue. It is an Urdu poem by poet of the East, Dr. Sir Muhammad Iqbal. The original title is Sarguzasht-e Adam, which has been translated as Adam's Travelogue. So here in this poem, man is speaking in retrospect, and he is speaking in first person. As per belief, before the human world came into physical existence, on the pattern of the angels, all the billions of human souls that were going to come in the world had already been created by God. That before the world, physical world came into being, before the first man was created, first human being was created, even before that, it's believed that all the billions of souls of humanity, not the physical bodies, but the souls, had already been created, and they were existing just like the angels have been existing on the same pattern. So that clarification is required before I proceed further. The first covenant, what we call here, and the first covenant is that these souls, which I mentioned to you just now, had jointly promised to God before the world came into being. They had jointly promised to God that they would behave well in the world. That was their covenant with God before the world was created. So the poet says that I forgot the story of the first covenant. And poet means that he is, yeah, okay, go ahead. I'll not disturb the beauty of it. I forgot the story of the first covenant. In the garden of heaven, when I drank the cup of awareness, I felt uneasy. Ever since then, in the heavens and on earth, I have always searched for the truth about the world, utilizing the celestial heights of my thought process. However, such was my fickle temperament that in no place under the sky could I settle for good. At times, I cleared off the Kaaba of stone idols, though earlier I had placed statues in the sanctuary. On another occasion, to converse with divinity, I climbed Mount Sinai and in turn unfolded the eternal light from out of my sleeve. Later, by my people, I was fastened on the cross. Yet I traveled to the heavens, leaving the earth behind. For years, I ensconced myself in the cave of Hira. Thus, I resuscitated the humanity with the eternal tonic. earlier, arriving in India, I had sung the divine sarod. And additionally, I had taken fancy for the land of Greece. Moving beyond the Indian expanse, I went to settle in China and Japan. I saw the world composed of atoms, contrary to what the men of faith then taught. By stirring up the conflict between intellect and belief, I regretfully soaked in blood so many lands. When still I failed to probe the reality of these stars, I spent nights on end engrossed in thoughts. The misconceived autocracy could not overawe me as I taught the reality of the revolving earth. I donned the lens of far-seeing and deeply analytical reason and acquainted the world of the gravitational force. I captured rays and the restless lightning, making our earth the envy of paradise. Such of my expositions did captivate the universe. Yet I kept wondering about the secret of human existence. Then, at last, my eyes, enamored of materialism, did open, and I found the life essence lodged in the mansion of my heart. Thus, ladies and gentlemen, in this poem, the poet Dr. Sir Muhammad Iqbal has utilized his extraordinary poetic talent to describe Adam's exit from paradise and the guidance that was received by every race and land in subsequently. That mandates human inclusiveness. Man is expected to be generously indifferent. Color, birth, nation, and faith. Unity of mankind and its universal realization is the great message of this poem. You are invited, ladies and gentlemen, to watch this video at YouTube. It has been produced by Interfaith Coalition for Peace along with sister organizations. It also reminds us that in our world, various faiths had spread through different prophets of God. Some of these prophets were given books also. The Holy Quran says in 85.22 that since before the creation of humanity, all the upcoming scriptures were kept safely together in a preserved tablet, for which the terminology used in the Holy Quran in Arabic is Lawh al-Mahfuz, translated as a preserved tablet, which is guarded from every accursed devil and secure from any falsehood. There is a concept of the night of power, which is one of the odd nights of the last 10 days of the month of Ramadan. So it is one of the last few nights there. And the Quran says that therein, in that night, is decreed every matter of ordainment. And for the next 1 year, The fates are decided. That's what is mentioned there. That's what at least is understood. So the concept is that before the world came into being, God had sent down his comprehensive message in nascent form from his preserved tablet, which is translated from the Quran, where it is mentioned as Lawh al-Mahfuz, the preserved tablet. It was brought down to the worldly sky during that particular night. That is the connectivity. Just an academic interest. And the Quran also says that that particular night is better than 1,000 months. That's the word used there, 1,000 months. And if you divide 1,000 months by 12, you get about 84.3 something number of years, which is perhaps the normal average human life. So that is to say that the prayers made during this particular night and the significance thereof has much greater value than the entire lifespan of supplication or spending life in different ways. On this night, angels descend to earth carrying God's bounties and instructions. Talking about the glory of this night, Quran clarifies that it is God who revealed the message through his prophets, peace be upon him. Prophets, it's always plural, not one, not only Muhammad. Prophets, in fact, 25 names of different messengers, including Moses, Jesus, and Abraham, and David, and so many others, are mentioned by name also. And at least 3 books are mentioned by name. So well-researched scholarly opinion converges around the belief that the revelation of predecessor scriptures, that is, those which were revealed before the Quran, the predecessor scriptures which were revealed by God to the earlier messengers also occurred during similar nights. That is the scholarly convergence of opinion. This is indeed, ladies and gentlemen, a strong directive for maintaining interfaith affection, because the books and each book and each prophet to whom the book was given, from that a particular community has come into existence, and different communities are existing in the world. Names of some messengers are mentioned in the Quran, as I just now said. In different parts of the world, great spiritual names occur in multiple theologies. Some of these spiritual persons were among those revered messengers whose names are not mentioned in the Quran. Mind this very minute difference. Even those whose names are not mentioned, they are also mandated to be revered equally. Nonetheless, all the believers are duty bound to equally respect all of them as mentioned in the Quran in 2.285. La nufarriqu bayna ahadin min rusuli. Do not differentiate among the messengers, including those whose names are not mentioned in the Quran. Similar is the case with the spiritual books. Names of some books are mentioned in the Quran, and names of many books are not mentioned by name in the Quran. Those of us who are more interested in knowing the specific details and also the references, there is a 9-minute video. You can see, look for it on YouTube by the name of Interfaith Love in the Islamic Mandate. So, friends, what was sent down earlier from the preserved tablet to the worldly sky was a compendium of God's perspective planning for the universe, including the spiritual life on earth. And it's very important to realize and to note that if God would have so willed, he would have made all of us world citizens owing allegiance to one faith. But God chose not to do so. And that is all mentioned in the Quran. He rather shaped us into races, nations, and faiths. That way, what is the purpose of doing that? That way, he has put us to test during our stay on earth. So the purpose of creation of humanity is liyabluwakum ayyukum ahsanu amala. That is the specific verse there, 11.7. That's so that God says, so that God may test as to who amongst you, utilizing the resourcefulness that I have blessed upon you, each one of you individually, utilizing those resources, how much you are doing for making the other human beings' life easier and comfortable. That is the purpose of creation of humanity. So God evaluates as to, despite being apparently unlike each other in more than one ways, how do we respond to his message, and to what extent we accommodate, love, and help each other. God is testing as to how much are we able to appreciate God's design of intrinsic human unity interspersed into outwardly group diversity. So let us recapitulate that God has networked the humanity in the form of communities led by different prophets, many of whom were given scriptures in their respective languages. That is also clarified in the Quran, that each prophet, each messenger who was given a scripture was in the language of the messenger and his community. As I just now mentioned to you, God says in 2.285, La nufarriqu baina ahadin min rusuli, do not differentiate among the messengers of God. Let us also realize that an Indian Swami Vivekanand, at the first Parliament of World Religions in 1893, that was 127 years ago, he said in Chicago, in the first Parliament of World Religions, that as the different streams having their sources in different places all mingle their water in the sea, so, O Lord, the different paths which men take through different tendencies, various though they appear, all lead to thee. So the prophets spread to the mankind God's word revealed through them. This is equally reflected in the philosophy of many other spiritual books, like the Holy Vedas of Hinduism, which says, Ekam Sat Viprah Bahuda, meaning thereby there is only one truth, wise men tell it differently. Many other spiritually enlightened personalities of the world have also been similarly spreading high virtue. Ladies and gentlemen, Quran begins with describing God as Rabbil Alameen, creator and sustainer of the worlds, and ends with God's description as Rabbin Nas, creator and sustainer of all the human beings. They have not said, God has not used Rabbil Muslimin or Rabbin Muslimin. No, Rabbil Alameen and Rabbin Nas, of the worlds and of the entire humanity. That way addressing all the humanity and indeed the entire creation. That is Islam's powerful mandate for maintaining interfaith love and affection. Also, friends, this squarely translates into the Constitution of India, which enshrines in Article 51A(e) that every citizen is bound by the fundamental duty to promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religious diversities. In the same spirit, friends, Pope Francis said that one's self-enrichment lies in opening one's doors to others with the goal of human good. He emphasized that in both Arabic and Hebrew languages, the word rahm, R-A-H-M, or compassion or mercy is derived from the three-letter root R-H-M that also means the mother's womb, where the infant develops and from there it enters the world. So, peace in the world begins from Rahm, meaning both womb and kindness. Thus, mercy and compassion are among the foremost attributes of God, and He expects these to be imbibed by human beings. Ladies and gentlemen, the preamble to the United Nations Charter says that we, the peoples of the United Nations, determined to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights and in the dignity and worth of the human person, and it calls upon the world community to practice tolerance and live together in peace, and for achieving that purpose to unite our strength. Let us thus rededicate ourselves to the spirit of mutual accommodation. Incidentally, ladies and gentlemen, with the phenomenon of preserved tablet, some scholars also attach the concept of predestination, which is known in the local language in India as taqdeer, predestination. It's important to mention here, this needs to be clarified. And having gone through various commentaries and researched through various sources, authentic sources, one finds that our supplications do change the destiny. And these are of much avail. Number one. Number two, that good deeds are a source of an increase in one's sustenance and can avert calamities. So predestination can be changed by good deeds, by prayers and by good deeds. And thirdly, sins result in a decrease in one's sustenance and invite calamities. Even if it's not predestined for one of us to be so bad, but then if we are not on the keeping ourselves on the side of God, that may further go down. So both ways it may change. The predestination can change because of the factors for which the human being is responsible. So the inference here is that fate can be changed. Quran clarifies in very clear terms, Laisal insana illa ma sa'a. One get what she or he strives for. Here, it is not only saying that if you don't strive for it, you will not get it, but there is also a hidden meaning here that if you try for it, you will get it. So this is what was discovered by Newton through his third law of motion. For every action, there is equal and opposite reaction. Newton discovered it. He did not create it. It was created by God. It's God's law existing. Everybody knows. But Newton discovered it in a very beautiful and scientifically presented manner. Also, let us think that there are in the world, among all the humanity, there are 100 kinds of faiths. 100 kinds of faiths. I tell my audiences that suppose fate number one is that of a poor laborer who is standing on the crossing, as I just now mentioned to you. In the morning, please take my services throughout the day, and in the evening, give me 500 rupees. And so his is fate number one. And maybe fate number 100 is of Bill Gates. So between these 1 to 100, let us think that each one of us present today and participating in this conversation, suppose we stand somewhere on 31. So by taking myself to a higher level of doing good deeds for the pleasure of my creator, I can improve my 31st position in this hierarchy to 32nd, 33, 34, 35, 40, 70, 80, 100, even beyond 100, etc. That is what is God's design. So that clarification is needed here. So friends, let us seek mutual help and friendship and stand firm in constancy and patient perseverance. But we should also mind, and each one of us, I'm sure, would agree with this, that the first requirement for peace is justice. Justice gives rise to reconciliation. Reconciliation gives rise to harmony, and harmony gives rise to peace. So we should not put the cart before the horse. If we do that, maybe despite our good intentions, it may not work. So let the followers of all beliefs appreciate that there is a common destiny based on love and peaceful coexistence. Let us jointly appeal also to the followers of all religions and faiths to work together for strengthening tolerance and mutual respect, thus enhancing human dignity and joining the chorus in praise of God. Let us also urge all the governments, political formations, and organizations to join hands and contribute in creating and nurturing an atmosphere of trust and understanding. At Interfaith Coalition for Peace in India, which we established about 16 years ago, at all levels, the numerically major faiths of India, Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, and Sikhism, are equally represented. And people of all other religions are enthusiastically taking part. They participate in the deliberations and the programs. We take these to the masses all over the country and elsewhere. We have local resource groups in 24 Indian states, in South Asian region, and in other countries. Our academic projects currently include 2 books, one for primary level children and another for glossary of religious terminology. Just the purpose is so that the child and the reader gets inspired for interfaith love and affection. We cordially invite you, ladies and gentlemen, the learned scholars in this group, here to academically contribute to these projects. We at Interfaith Coalition for Peace in India, we sponsor interfaith youth gatherings of several days at one go in some place or the other. We organize interfaith women's journeys, equal number of women representing each faith, traveling together from state to state, district to district, staying there for a couple of days in every place, meeting the local people, etc. Our teams visit areas of possible conflict and try to preempt and diffuse the situation. We organize group discussions on topics of common interest like fasting, light, environmental protection, etc. We also participate in praxis like projects for empowerment of the deprived. Ladies and gentlemen, I have also to mention to you, with your permission, that among the publications which we have been coming up with is a coffee table book. You can read online also, otherwise you'll be happy to send to by post a hard copy also, each one of you, where the Taj Mahal's spiritual message has been described. In fact, usually the world thinks that Taj Mahal is a source of beauty, and Taj Mahal also reminds of human love between two individuals. But what usually people are not aware, that Taj Mahal is also a source of giving out to the world the spiritual message of togetherness, of mutual love and affection through what is inscribed on its walls all around and its beautiful arches. So that has been explained in this coffee table book. Successful human existence, ladies and gentlemen, successful human existence is all about keeping the soul above the body. We are aware that our individual existence consists of two portions. One is the physical body, the other is the soul. So far as we are able to elevate the soul at a higher level as compared to the body, we are successful individual, irrespective of what faith we subscribe to. So this Allama Iqbal, the poet of the East, he says in Persian language here, and I'm translating it for you, what is religion? It is rising, and he answers, it is rising above the level of dust. And you know, Iqbal uses the word dust for physical body of the human being. He uses the word dust. So it is rising above the level of the dust, so that the soul purged of matter becomes self-conscious. He very much emphasizes that each human being is blessed with so much capacity to do good in the world for himself, for herself, for the family, for the extended family, for the society, for the neighborhood, and for the nations. So, but then one has to realize the inner strength. Centuries-old underlying principle of Indian social order says, Sarv Dharm Sampanna. Let all faiths manifest. Yet, friends, we the citizens of the world seem to have digressed from our original promise, the first covenant. We need to put our heads together and mull over possible institutional changes to be effected in the intra-community, intra-humanity universal network. Proceeding on these lines, friends, after Mr. Biden took over the US presidency, we from the Zakat Foundation of India and Interfaith Coalition for Peace Together had sent to him a letter that still dawns our website. We wrote there, the world is earmarked into 8 units, commonly known as village, town, city, district, province, region, nation, and continents. So these 8 different kinds of units the world has been earmarked into. Okay. We added that these are essentially administrative units meant to facilitate the universal human life. 7 of these units have been mostly fulfilling this purpose. However, many nations of the world seem to have deflected from such selfless role of being a mechanism for humanity's benefaction. Under Mr. Biden's co-stewardship of the world, one wishes that the world's thought process undergoes a paradigm shift. Let the national interest, quote unquote, the national interest, let it be defined, maybe redefined in such a way that it upholds and sustains the basic human interest. There should be no clash between national interest and human interest. Let us reminisce, ladies and gentlemen, that the humanity was created out of one couple. At any given point of time, the geographical boundaries should not be an impediment in the way of human development and progress. That way, the humanity would reaffirm its faith and enshrined in the preamble of the UN Charter, and I quote, in the dignity and worth of the human person. With this object in view, we requested Mr. Biden to utilize his tenure in White House to take the Committee of Nations into a higher orbit of human dignity. So, ladies and gentlemen, some of us citizens of the world would have to imagine ourselves in the skies as if each one of us is sitting in the skies, like Aristotle's philosopher king, and selflessly think how best to guide the humanity, urging it to undergo the required metamorphosis in the field of interpersonal and intergroup human behavior, so that upcoming generation gets made of better human beings. And thus, we would be able to fruitfully contribute towards fulfilling our first covenant by cherishing and nurturing the common thread permeating across the various prophetic communities as envisaged in the preserved tablet. The Quran says, Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsan. Incidentally, this is included in every Friday sermon, but hardly anybody understands because its meanings are not explained by the Imam. It's such a beautiful thing. God says, enjoin adl and ihsan. Adl is justice, enjoin justice. I said just now to you that justice is the minimum God expects. But God will be happier if we take it to the higher orbit of compassion. We do not limit it to justice. We take it to higher orbit of compassion, that is ihsan. So minimum expectation from humanity is justice, but one who decides to go to the higher orbit of ihsan or compassion and is extra helpful to the fellow human being becomes the blue-eyed boy of the divinity. For carrying such message forward, this valuable platform provided by Mr. Dennis Neyman and ably steered by its eminent and devoted functionary, Professor Rifat Hassan, will surely stand in good stead. Let's light our candles together. Thank you very much. I am indebted to all of you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mahmood.
All worth it. It was worth the whole trip. And so, Zafar, everything that you've done and continue to do has been extraordinary and very pertinent to the times.
Ellen,
Well, thank you very much.
Ellen, would you like to share something?
Well, first, I would just say tonight, this feels like a presentation offering us so much hope, so much reason to lift from, I think we've had some dark times. And I'm just soaking up your message tonight. It's a beautiful expression. I'd like to know more about what you have shared with us. And I guess I raised the question, why is it that this is not more generally presented and understood? This fundamental unity that we all share through what you've called the tablet, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
this is my first exposure, and I doubt that many people have had any.
Mhm.
So maybe that encourages you to do and explore further what you have offered us tonight. I'm so happy to think on this after this presentation and offer ideas to expand what this message is and try to. I love the fact that you wrote to our new president. It takes bold moves, and that's a bold gesture. You also had slides up about Pope Francis. I just think there are many ways that you have touched into something that is a universal way to go in a direction that will bring the compassion.
I wanted to say that the image of the Taj Mahal is a pleasing one to represent, not just, as Dr. Mahmood said, the love between two humans, but also the development of loving compassion in the world. So I'm pleased to see that in your presentation.
You know, the whole, I'm not unmuted, the whole talk, I'm very much in favor of it, but it presents a whole series of very profound questions with a predestination, free will, the conflicts with it, which are spreading out through every continent almost. You know, you have the persecutions in China and Myanmar, in Russia, and even in Kenya, and all of these things, that they seem to be the clash. If I go back into the whole thing of the mysticism of the children of the light and the children of the dark, it seems like I don't know. It's just kind of an overwhelming type of contrast that we're living in, you know. And really some of the basic rejection of everything that was presented today because of economic or nationalistic types of interests, which are struggling to really suppress all of this message, you know. And it's, I mean, even in our own country, it's never been so much separated, you know, between desire to be involved with those who are needy and those who are saying that, well, no, we shouldn't be involved there at all. And it's becoming very oppositional in terms of the basic philosophy of living and the purpose of living.
Dr. Joseph Brennan is our scholar in residence. He's a theologian and a philosopher.
If you don't mind, let me chip in
sure.
here. That that's right. I fully agree with Mr. Joseph Brennan. There are difficulties, yes, but then we are true soldiers of our prophets. We should go back and see what difficulties Christ and Moses had to face when they began their ministries. But then they did not get frustrated out of that. They did not get discouraged out of that, because the world seemed to be against them, but they were doing whatever the bit they had to do. So the message that we have, all of us have got from our Creator, is that my duty and your duty, individual duty, is to make an effort. It's not within the control of any one of us to effect any changes, to instill the efforts with the results. It's not with it. That is a divine thing. That's a divine domain. In fact, God had once scolded Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that it's not your domain to put the effect in your efforts. That is my domain. You keep on doing your effort. So that is the broad lesson. And today's event is one such attempt of doing whatever best one can do. Like that, there should be more and more efforts. So one more thing which very, very important here is that after the soul is separated from the body, there is only individual accountability. There is no collective accountability. I will not be able to say that because Mr. Brennan did not do this, so therefore I could not do this. My hand will speak, my skin will speak, every organ of my body will speak that he could do it, but he did not do it. So there is individual accountability. There is no collective accountability. So each one of has to prepare for that time also. So if we keep these two particular aspects of our life in mind, so let's keep on making effort. And there is a couplet in Urdu which translates like this: I am just repeatedly, continuously hitting my heel on the ground. Maybe a stream comes out. So that is, you can imagine that is coming from the prophetic tradition. The child was hitting the heel on the ground, and God decided that the stream should come out of that. So we have to hit our heel, and creating the stream is divine.